Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, Night of the Eagle from 1962 and directed by Sidney Hayers is a film I've meant to talk about many, many times in the past. I have mentioned it a fair bit and I have reviewed it on other medium platforms. And I'm taking advantage of the fact that it's just been released, well, last week it was released on a UK Blu-ray from Studio Canal with a few extra features and a glorious new kind of glowing restoration, and I love the movie. I grew up with it. I first saw it on TV, and it's occult and witchcraft, it's paranoia, it's a highly frenzied movie. I can't think of a film which maintains such a fever pitch of tension, rage, angst and just unease and disquieting tension all the way through to this degree. It is really overpowering. Now, Night of the Eagle, its title is derived from Night of the Demon, which is a very similar sort of movie. The classic Jacques Tourneur, Night of the Demon. Dr. Carswell dabbles in the occult. A big skeptical American professor comes over to the UK to debunk his cult and all his theories and his claims of, black magic, and learns the error of his ways. Soon gets cursed and a big demon comes after him, and he learns the error of his ways and has to face the fact that the occult, the supernatural, it's real and his life depends upon it. Well, this is a very sort of similar story, and they clearly called it Night of the Eagle to kind of get it in the same mood as Night of the Demon. Again, that was the UK title. American title was Curse of the Demon. And this film had an American title as well, which was different again. It was Burn, Witch, Burn, which is actually a very apt title as well, being as that line, Burn, Witch, Burn, is uttered in this movie. Well, that was spooky. My little notes just drifted off and floated into the sweet by and by. Come back here. I may refer to you. Oops. You didn't see what happened earlier when I set this whole thing up behind me. That kept falling down. Those masks kept falling over. Everything was just in disarray. It was like something was telling me, don't do this video. The occult. And folks, the Kilt Mansion is haunted. I mean, look, it's hair-raising living here. So, anyway. Burn, Witch, Burn in America and Night of the Eagle in this country. And it's based on a 1943 novel by Fritz Leiber called Conjure Wife. Now, Fritz Leiber, I think this was a bit of a departure for him because he's one of the progenitors, one of the forefathers of sci-fi and sword and sorcery fantasy fiction. Alongside Tolkien and all of that mob, Michael Moorcock. He was one of the founding fathers, and he did sci-fi and fantasy a lot. So this was a horror story. And yet it was a look at the social mores and sexual politics of the era. Like behind every great man, there's a strong woman that put him there. And that was the point. Now, the story, according to Fritz Leiber, was an American high school teacher was doing really, really well. And, he's on the up and up in the fast lane. But it's only because his wife, who is a witch, who practices conjure magic, has put protective charms all around his life and done spells and incantations to protect him from other witches who don't want him to succeed. Because the basis of that story was that every woman is a witch to some degree. So his wife protects him, but when he discovers that she's a witch, he removes all the charms and amulets, all the protection, and the minute he does that, his life spirals into despair and chaos. And it becomes a battle of witches. And there's a lot more to the novel than you get in the movie, which is always the case, I suppose. But in the novel, as I said, every woman is a witch. They're all involved in it to some degree, and it's a huge Witches of Eastwick, the Craft sort of battle of wills. Well, the film, which is the screenplay is written by the great Richard Matheson. Oh my God, Richard Matheson. I Am Legend, Say No More. Numerous Twilight Zones, numerous other movie scripts, and vast novels and short stories. An absolute master of the craft. And he and his what would become a long-time collaborator, who also wrote the Twilight Zone stories, whose name I've forgotten, Charles Beauchamp? Have I made that up? Let's have a look. Let's just see. Charles Beaumont. I give it a bit more exotic twang. Beauchamp. Charles Beaumont. They together, they wrote this. I think Charles Beaumont wrote most of the final act, and then Matheson came in and they sort of chopped it up. I'll write this bit, you write that bit, I'll write that bit, then you write the end. And then they all agreed on everything. And they changed quite a bit, but the basic story is still the same. Only it relocated from America to England, to a lovely rural, sort of looks like the Cotswolds. Beautiful. And the college itself is the Hempnell Medical College. And it's 1962. And you've got quite an ethnic diversity in the class, which I noticed. There's black people there, there's Asians, and there's a Japanese lad is there as well. So they've actually covered quite a bit of ground in that. So in a way, that's kind of like forward thinking for 1962 anyway. And you have the great Peter Wyngarde. Oh my God, Jason King, Clytus from Flash Gordon, but also a Shakespearean stage actor as well, and a very, very unusual fella. But he is wonderful. I've always loved this guy. And my mother first introduced me to Peter Wyngarde. My mother, big kilt mama, was an actress on stage and screen herself, and worked with some great people as well. And but she never worked with Peter Wyngarde, but she always admired him. She was his voice, that face so full of character, and he has got a wonderful face and a really mellifluous voice, and a real charisma to him. And she used to make me sit and watch Department S, which then became Jason King. He's the author, an author turned espionage detective. It's loosely based on an idea of Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming wasn't quite like that, but it's brilliant. Now, Peter Wyngarde, only the year before, had been in Jack Clayton's awesome The Innocents with Deborah Kerr, and he plays a very sinister apparition who you just see leering in at windows during ferocious downpours, and just his figure, his silhouette, but that face again, that really gaunt, and a huge nose, an aquiline, eagle-like nose. It is like a beak, and just leering in. He made a real big impression, just by, didn't say a single word in The Innocents, but that was enough. Like, Sidney Hayers was going like the director of Night of the Eagle. Get him, get this guy. And at first, he didn't like the idea of it. He thought, oh, what? Hocus pocus? I don't like any of this. And if you listen to interviews with him, and there is one on this disc actually, which I've not seen before, and he says, like, me and my co-star, Janet Blair, who plays his wife Tansy, the witch who's looking after him, they both said, can you take some of the hocus pocus stuff out of it? There's just too much of this, you know, incantations and spells. Well, God alone knows what they took out, because the film is all about spells and protection and charms and curses, and it's voodoo, very voodoo influenced, and so I don't know what they took out of it, but anyway. So he's Norman Taylor. In the novel, it's Norman Saylor and Tansy Saylor, and they're Americans, but in this, it's Norman and Tansy Taylor, and he's on the up and up. He's a psychology professor, and but he's earmarked for a position on the board. In fact, the chairman of the board. Now, we know straight away there's tension amongst all the other professors, or rather their wives, some of whom are professors as well, who resent these newcomers, Tansy and especially Tansy and Norman. So the dynamic is set up. He's on the fast lane to success and glory, but it's only because Tansy is a witch, played by Janet Blair, and Tansy has all these protective charms around him. They're all over the house, they're everywhere, and she's done this because she knows that there's definitely another witch is out there who's out to destroy them. So all these charms and amulets are working their magic to procure his success. But someone else is out there to take them down, and it's another witch, of course. Now, in the novel there was many witches. In this there's just two, but they are arch rivals. So it all starts off, you're in the class there, and he is writing. I don't know if you can see over here, over there, is an image of Peter Wyngarde as Norman Taylor. And on the blackboard behind chalkboard, he starts off by writing to his class, "I do not believe," and he underlines "not" and then underlines the whole thing. Because he's debunking the occult, superstitions, the supernatural, all of it. But immediately we learn that there's a girl there that's infatuated with him, and she's got a boyfriend in the class as well who resents the fact that she's infatuated with the teacher. So he's a rebellious sort of, at loggerheads with Norman. But this other girl, Norman just has a teacherly platonic relationship with her. She's very studious and she's doing the right thing. And it goes wrong, obviously. But only does it go wrong because he discovers that Tansy has worked all this magic, which he doesn't believe in. They have a bridge night every Friday with all the other people from the college, these other professors, including Flora Carr, played by, I forgot her name, Margaret Johnson, who walks with a bit of a club foot. So straight away you're like, what? Something weird about you, girl. And they all come to the Taylor's house, a lovely house as well, it's fantastic. And they play bridge that night. And you get to know some of these various other characters. And they're all obviously go-getters. But the fellas are all they're sound. They've got no axes to grind. It's the women. And you learn there's another woman there whose name I've forgotten, but she's a hypnotist. So and they're playing bridge at separate tables. And I'm like, dear, why don't you work your magic and hypnotise the right cards to come up and all this? She goes, I would. And how is your hypnotism coming along these days? Oh, it's marvellous. So you're getting, hypnotist, influence people. Maybe she's the bad one. There's a few red herrings in all of this. So anyway, the bridge night goes awkwardly, shall we say. And afterwards, Norman's just, he's playing about the cards, and Tansy's frenziedly going round the entire house, all the mantelpieces, all the shelves, underneath the tables, looking everywhere for something. Dear, what are you looking for? Says the awesomely voiced Peter Wyngarde. What are you looking for? Nothing, it's just a shopping list, but it's got an important phone number on it. And she's looking inside little jars and things and boxes. She goes, I don't think it hopped in there, do you? No, of course not, dear. Anyway, he goes, right, I'm going to bed. You're going to follow us? Yes, I'll be up shortly. So off he goes. And Peter Wyngarde looked after himself. And there's he takes off his shirt, but he leaves it sort of, his arms are still in it, but down to the elbows. And he thrusts his chest out. And even though he's rake thin, he is built. And he looks amazing. But he's done it on purpose. Peter Wyngarde knew what he was doing. And he's there like that. He's famous for having his big sort of droopy moustache, very 70s, and big mad mop of hair, which looks like a Grenadier Guards busby has just gone all down the side of his head. But he was voted the most fashionable man in Britain a couple of times running because of his big cravats and massive, lapel collars and all this, big flamboyant colours. He was a character without a doubt. But he's trying to find his pyjamas and he can't open the drawer. What's happening here? The drawer above, it's stuck against that. So he takes out the drawer above and because you can hear him doing all this, Tansy's downstairs and she looks up. She realises, oh no, he's going into my drawer. Oh no. So she legs it up there and he finds in the back of hair drawer a little tub, opens it up, and there's a dead spider in there. Now, not a little one, it's a big bloody spider, all shriveled up like that. And it's like, Tansy, what the hell is this? It's just a good luck charm. What? A good luck charm? Well, yes. And you learn that they spent some time in Jamaica. She even says, I don't know if we could go back to Jamaica. I think they spent 2 years there. I think I'm right in that. And anyway, I want to go back to Jamaica. I got married in Jamaica to my wife, Janet, or Mrs. Kilt-Man. And I want to go back there as well. But what is this? And the thing is, she's been looking for someone, another witch who she knows that they're out there, has planted something in their house. She's had, a second sense, So she's gone everywhere and she finds it in a lampshade. She spins it around. It's got little tassels on it. And inside one of these tassels is a little sort of voodoo effigy, a little stick man. But she gets that out and she burns that and it flares up, because it's satanic, And but he will find that she's got these things everywhere. They're all over the house. Little amulets and little charms, little blessed ropes and cords, and earth from certain graves around, Jamaica, and lots of other insects as well, and a skull. And he's like, look, what the hell is all this about? I hate this sort of stuff. I don't believe it. What? Yes, you just think I'm insane, don't you? So they have many heated rows about this. But he makes her burn everything. And she's saying, and he's like, why do you even think this is the case? Look, have you thought about how your career's gone? It's because of these. There's someone out there who's trying to take you down. I've been protecting you all this time. Well, this stuff, you're talking hogwash, woman, He's not buying any of this at all. But you can see how frenzied and really concerned and agitated that she is. And Janet Blair really goes to town on this. And it might be sort of a little bit too much, because she's never got a smile on her face. It's always, and the wide-eyed stares. And she's got the same hairdo as Janet Leigh from Psycho, a couple of years before, 1960, Alfred Hitchcock, of course. And she looks like Janet Leigh. So another couple of Janets. And you've got my Janet thrown into the mix as well, somehow. And but she looks just like Janet Leigh. Now, Janet Blair was an actress in musicals and on stage, a singer, a dancer, and this was not her sort of thing at all. So I've got a suspicion that they only picked her because that she looked like Janet Leigh, and to make that connection. So I think Night of the Eagle, they took that title, right, Night of the Demon, right? This Janet Blair got the same name as Janet Leigh and looks like her. So let's bring her in as well. Brilliant. We're off to a roaring start. So all these things get burned. But she explains, remember in Jamaica, you've had this is a failing of the movie and Richard Matheson's script, to be honest, because they should have expanded on this. She goes, remember in Jamaica when you had that terrible accident? And he's like, yes. We don't learn what that accident was. And she says, you were dying. You were going to die. And I remembered Carubius. Do you remember Carubius? Yes. Carubius was a witch doctor that he met out there. He's not likely to forget this, is he? And she said, I want to swap myself for you. Let me die, not him. Let me die, not him. Me in his place. And he's like, well, what's this got to do with anything? You were going to die, Norman. You were going to die. Don't you think they should have told us what he was going to die of? What was this accident? You don't find this out at all. A bit of an omission there. She said, but remember, Carubius, we saw that woman he brought back to life. He was, don't be daft, Tansy. She was in a catatonic trance. Now, if he believed that, well, what did he make of what happened afterwards, as she recites? Carubius is trying to bring this girl back to life, but failing. But the mother of the girl stands there as well and says, you don't see this, it's just recited by Tansy. And she says, me for her, take my life instead of hers. I've had my life, she's got all hers ahead of her, take me. Remember what happened? Remember Norman? The girl's eyes opened and the mother dropped down dead. How come he doesn't remember that? And it's the whole thing is then just brushed over. We should be told what the accident was. And Norman should be like, oh yeah, it was in a catatonic trance. Well, explain how her mother then dropped dead. Come on, Norman, come on. You do believe a little bit, don't you? Anyway, but he makes her burn everything. And she's like, but Norman, I won't be able to protect you. You don't understand. And the next day, everything goes titty up for him. Oh, big time. On the way, he almost gets hit by a speeding lorry a good old 1960s jalopy lorry, roaring down the country lanes. You were doing 60 miles an hour. I wasn't doing 60. You were. This is restricted space. Because it's in the college grounds. And he he does almost get completely decimated by this truck. So suddenly things aren't looking too good. He gets into school and hang on a minute, I've missed a bit out. Because that bridge game was on a Friday night, so you've had the weekend. They've burnt everything the next day. But on the Saturday night, he gets a phone call. She's gone to bed and he gets a phone call. And it's a dirty phone call as well. You hear the female voice and you see his reaction to it all. And she's, yeah, for this time, it's a little bit lewd. But he hangs up in the end. He doesn't know who it is. We're going to work that out very quickly. Gets into school after his brush with death. And he's he's threatened by black schoolgirls. I mean, she's, what, 18, 19 years old. He gets threatened by hair fella again. Jennings, I think his name is. And I know what you're doing. It's filthy. It's disgusting. Get out of my room. And then as the morning begins to wear on, he gets summoned to the principal's because that girl has made a complaint that he's violated her. And he's like, what? See, everything is suddenly escalated. The minute all those charms have gone, his life is unraveling really at a fast rate. And Peter Wyngarde's got a great face, and he just increasingly, what? He can't comprehend this, and his anger and his resilience, but the facade begins to crack, and he gets summoned, and the girl's there. She says you violated her, and she confirms this. Well, when did this happen then? And you've got Flora Carr there, who's, I think, is she like the principal or something? She must be. She's in charge at the school with her turned in foot, and she has a limp, and she's got a great sort of bird-like attitude, very sort of jittery, and the eyes are very piercing, and a knowing look on her face. Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, it's her. There's no fucking surprise to that. She's quite obviously the one. All the things that she said in the bridge game and the things she said in the car going back, they don't belong here. They never fitted in and all this. We know that she's the fucking chief antagonist. Anyway, but this girl is her ward. So of all the people that have to make the complaint, it's someone who's actually in with the principal. Oh dear. But he says, when did I do this to you? Saturday night. Saturday night, I was at home with my wife. Oh, that's very convenient, isn't it? And I'm sure she'll back you up on that. This is what the girl is saying. He goes, you were with Jennings, because I've already seen Jennings and he told me you were him and you were making love. She goes, we weren't making love, but I was with him. Yes, and you made that phone call to me, didn't you? You said disgusting, filthy things. And she breaks down. I hate you. But she's basically confessed that, yeah, she made it all up. And he's in the clear again. But he goes back to his room, and the great stone eagle, a bit like that one there behind me, presides over the main entrance to this college. Great big stone effigy of an eagle. But if you look around the grounds, there's eagles or griffins on almost every wall. And during the first half of the movie, whenever something happens, there could be a rainstorm, lightning, a revelation, but the camera will cut to a shot of this eagle, and Night of the Eagle. Something's going to happen with that eagle, isn't it? Yes, it is. And you haven't got to be eagle-eyed to spot it either. Oh dear. Cheers, y'all. And but Jennings has hidden himself in Taylor's room again for the second time. Like, he turns around, and in a great sort of camera movement, quite a bit elaborate, I think. You just see the revolver suddenly starts coming towards the back of Norman, but the camera's attached to it, or rather the gun and the hand are attached to the camera, so it's moving in like sort of a proto John Carpenter style Steadicam shot with Dean Cundy at the helm. And he turns around and what are you doing with that gun? You're going to shoot me? Yeah, I'm going to take you down. I know what you did to so-and-so, whatever the girl's name is. I'm going to see that your reputation's ruined. But he manages to slap him across the face, gets the gun off him, calls the security. I've got Jennings in my room now. You pulled a gun on me. No one's hurt. But you better get down here quickly. So Norman is exonerated of all of this to a degree. But, shit sticks, doesn't it? You get that kind of accusation. As Jennings says, you're ruined now because I'm going to put it out there that you did all this. So regardless of what you do and what you say, how you wriggle out of this. And he goes back home again. And he says, Tansy sort of knows, well, how was your day? Oh, it was fine. No, something's wrong, isn't it? No, everything's fine. Why doesn't he tell her? Because part of him knows that, shit, the minute we burnt all that stuff, everything went to rat shit, didn't it? And he's got the posters that I, and he goes like, but she goes, what is that? And it's one of these old spool tapes. He goes, oh, this is a recording of my lecture in Manchester the other month. Let's listen to it. In fact, I want you to hear this, Tansy, because when you hear his voice at this lecture, it's about disbelieving superstitions and psychosis and why they form a basis with something else which is illogical and completely aberrant to their normal sort of belief systems. You hear this, but in a marvellous audio trick, you get this weird warbling noise as well, which comes out, and then you get this kind of musical lullaby, which gets louder and louder, and you got Tansy's doing this because she knows that's a curse that's coming through. The tape has been cursed, and they're playing it now, so things begin to go fucking crazy. Suddenly there's something at the door, and she's like, "Will you just turn that off?" And it's like, what? The phone goes. There's something at the door. A hellish storm comes up out of nowhere. You hear what I think are like horses' hooves battering against the door, and this unearthly, wailing shriek of absolute horror and pain and agony. It's really distressing stuff, like. And she turns it off, and then the phone rings, and he picks it up, and it's coming through the phone, this warbling melody thing, this lullaby, and she knows it's there, and she goes to try and pull the cord for the phone out, knocking at the door, boom, boom, boom. This scream is taking place. And she said, "Norman, don't answer the door, don't answer the door." And he's just, his face again, just it sells so much emotion and stuff, behind the scenes, so much cerebral chaos. And he's just he goes to the door and he hits, the table, does his leg in, but gets to the door, he's about to open it, and she manages to pull the plug on the phone, so all this noise stops. It fuses everything, the lights all go out. Oh, fucking hell. It's incredibly done. Opens the door, there's nothing there, of course. Just wind and rain and lightning. And they have another argument, and she says, look, yeah, I just didn't like the sound of that, and yes, I'm going to tell you, being a silly woman, I thought something was out there, but there wasn't. I don't know why she doesn't say, look, I know what's happening. The shit that you've been in today, doesn't this prove it? So things get heightened and more agitated again. I think she goes to bed. I made a little note of this. Oh yeah, sorry. There is a moment. I think he finds here that she's got a locket round her neck. Did we burn everything? Is everything gone? And she's like, oh. And she does this, and he goes, right. And it's a little silver locket with pictures of him on both sides. But he takes it off her and he goes, and the little picture comes out, and there's ash or earth there behind it, and probably another bug. There's a lot of spiders in this, although they don't really play a major part. They're just scuttling around, or they're dead. And so he chucks the earth in the fire, but his photo goes with it. And she's like, Norman, your picture! Norman, your picture! Your picture! Norman, your... And she's trying to get it out of the fire, and she can't. Oh, you don't know what you've done. Oh, God. Anyway, she goes to bed, and I wrote down here, there's another great series of jump scares in this. They have a black cat. Well, of course they do, And I think he's looking at someone again, and he's trying to make sense of all this. It's just crazy. And I think the cat, the cat shrieks, because he's burnt something again, the skull, he's prodding around, and the cat just goes, and then shrieks and leaps off the chair. And he goes, and he's like, oh God, the cat. And then the phone beside him rings again. Oh, it's like, Jesus Christ. It's just, You can see him like, oh God, I've had enough. Can't I get a break? It's non-stop. It's not a jump fright and occult stuff taking place. There's threats, there's intimidation, there's just arguments, domestic stuff reaching supernova levels. So it's just exciting all the way through. You couldn't live like that. Your heart just wouldn't take it, you know. But yeah, so what happens next? Yes. So he goes to bed, and then we cut to the next morning, and he wakes up, leans over, she's not there. Where's Tansy gone? Tansy? Where's Tansy? Tansy! Comes downstairs. I think there's another bare-chested shot as well. Not of Tansy, I hasten to add. And comes down. No sign of her. Oh, but there's that tape recording thing. Oh, and I think you meant to... these are like old spools. She's left another recording for him. So he plays this, and it's like, my darling Norman, it's over. I have to go. I can't save you now. There's only one thing I can do, and that's I've got to die in your place. So I'm gone. I love you, darling. Ta-ra. This is me going. I'm going to shut this tape off now. I'm going. Bye. I love you, but I'm going to kill myself. Ta-ra. And he's like, what? And a car pulls up outside, and he thinks, Tansy! And he runs out the door, and it's one of these, I think it's the girl who can do hypnotism. But I don't think you see it again after this moment. And he goes, she goes, oh, Norman, are you all right? You haven't had a fight, have you? He's like, no, have you seen Tansy? Well, actually, yes. I think my husband saw her getting on the bus down in town. She looked very upset. And he's like, Norman, you need to sign these. And he's like, get out the fucking way. And he gets in. They've got like a 1960s Triumph sports car. Little fucking low down thing, you know, no top on it. And he goes bombing down the motorway, fucking hurtling. In and out, weaving. And he catches up with the bus, believe it or not. Now, this is a great scene, but it's also daft at the same time. He put the little country lane, there's the bus, and he pulls up alongside. Of course, no roof on it. So he's shouting, he's driving, Tansy! And you see there's passengers from the back, and like none of them seem to notice the fact he's honking his horn, and there's a speeding car right beside him. No one notices it, and he's shouting, Tansy! It's like Speed with Keanu Reeves trying to get on the bus again. He's sure got a hard on for this bus, you know. And then he catches up with Tansy sitting there, and it's like she's put herself into a trance, or someone else has put her into a trance. And she's just sitting there like that, and paying no attention to the fact that this speeding car is beside him, and someone's shouting her name and beeping the horn, bah, 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 bah. And then you see brilliantly, there's another one of these old trucks coming straight towards him, and he's like, whoa! And it comes, it's like, whoa, right into your face, and you go, fucking hell. Last minute he manages to swerve, goes into a ditch, and when he comes to, the two wear keys in the van, you okay, mister? You all right? And he's got, always in these films, like these older films, when someone has a car crash, you know, their head hasn't come off, you know, their face isn't completely pancaked and shoveled in, you know, they've just got a little trickle of, like that, like my hair there, it's like a little trickle of blood down the head like that, and that's the extent of their injuries. It's like, look, oh, mister, your car's going to be all right, you know, suspension's gone now. So his car isn't all right then, is it? No, it's not. Suspension's gone, it's fucked. And he says, well, you've got to get me to a higher car. What were you doing, mister? We saw you coming, and you had plenty of time to get in. He goes, I was trying to signal my wife. And they go, anyway, you've got to come to the doctor now. He goes, no, I've got to get a higher car. No, the first place you're going is you've got to go to the doctor. And first of all, you've got to sign some papers. It won't take long, mister. So you're like, oh God, he's got to get to his wife. And she said, I think she said, by midnight, I'll be dead. Now, what they've got down in Cornwall, on the cliffs, yeah, Pole Dark country. And they have filmed it. This is filmed on the back lot of Elstree Studios. But they do a lot of location work in Cornwall. And man, Cornwall is an astonishing natural beauty. It really, really is. And the way they filmed it here, it's even better. It's spectral, just delightful, really spellbinding to look at. but they've got a cottage down there. And this is some of the resentment that the other people in the college have had. Yeah, she spends all their time down at the cottage. Yes, oh, the lovely cottage down there. What's she doing? Plotting and scheming down there? Jealous knickers, aren't you? And so he's known she's going there, which is why, well, obviously the bus was heading that way. So he's got a hire car now, and he gets there, and Tansy, he can't get in, but he can see that she's been there, obviously. She goes around the back, gets in, the back door's open. There's no sign of her. Where the hell is she? And it's one of these places where you open the back door, and it's the sheer cliff, and you look down, and there's the waves crashing in. It's now 11:30 at night, and she's got till midnight, bear that in mind. And got the crashing waves. I've got a feeling that place, which is a genuine location, that won't exist now. The way that the land around the UK is being eroded and shrinking in, we're always seeing reports of houses toppling off cliffs, people having to move back. They once had an 80-foot garden, now they've got like just a little box of grass in front, and then it's the crashing surf down below because all of the rocks have tumbled. Ain't good. The British Isles is shrinking, folks. It's gonna collapse under the weight of immigrants anyway, because there's that many immigrants coming in. There's no room for them, you know. Right, so he finds some books, witchcraft, and he opens them up, and there's like a sort of a little recipe for how you transfer my life for his. In the house of the dead, in place of the dead. So he's like, right, shit, okay. So he's already run down to the beach in one great moment, and he's scrambled down the cliffs trying to find it. Tansy! It's day for night shooting, but my God, it looks amazing. It's clearly day for night. But if you've ever been to Cornwall and you have a clear sky and a full moon, and the full moon glints off the sea, whether the sea's calm or the sea's rolling about, it's silver daylight. It's as bright as daylight, but it's just completely silver. And that's how this looks, even though it is day for night shooting, but it's captured that spectral quality, and it looks incredible. I mentioned now the cinematography is by a fellow called Reginald Weiler, and it is astonishingly good. A lot of compositions of a really sharply detailed close-up of someone's face, usually Janet Blair's eyes, and in the background you'll have Peter Wyngarde or somebody scurrying about or sitting in a chair reading a book, but all the detail is absolutely immaculate. There's no like sort of blaring of stuff like someone moves out of a blared background and becomes a sharp relief in the foreground. It's all perfectly well adjusted. It just looks incredibly well shot. So he's running across the beach and all that, and we see that she's behind some rocks just like that, again in a trance sort of thing, and he's legging it across the beach because he's now realised in the house of the dead, and there's an old church. Now this is a set, but they've obviously used a real church sort of in the background, but they just matted it in. I'm not too sure, but it looks really good. But the church itself and the crypts and tombs, and he climbs over the wall, gets to the crypt, picks up a big rock and smashes the lockdown. You must be assuming that she's going to do this, whatever she's going to do, the suicide is going to be in the crypt. Although how the hell she's got in there and put a big padlock on the outside of it, I don't know. But he gets in there and it's just coughing. There's a few bats flying around as well. And again, he's got his little notes and all that, and he's got a picture of her, and he's got candles. He's just lit up candles to look around, and it's getting to midnight and he's got no chance. And we've seen her now get up and walk, take her high heels off and walk across the beach and into the sea. Oh no, that old chestnut, the damsel walking peacefully into the tranquil waters to just gently submerge themselves and drown. Can't happen like that, folks. Whether you want to commit suicide by drowning or not, your body will rebel and it will not be peaceful, even if you are under the influence of voodoo. So he's despairing now. Tansy, me for her, my life for hers. All this, she's done it for him once before, and then she's going to do it now, but he's not going to do it for her. But the candle he's got, it drips wax on the top of a coffin, so he sticks a candle on it and then burns more wax, sticks more candles around, and he gets a photo of her, and he gets, I don't know where this earth came from, just anywhere I suppose, and he sprinkles it on, and he's just going, my life for hers. And then suddenly a crash of thunder, lightning, and the crypt door goes, springs open, and he turns around and looks up, and silhouetted in the doorway, almost like Nosferatu in those coffin-shaped doorways, she's there, all bedraggled and wet. Tansy! And he runs up and she collapses and he catches her. Oh, it's a great moment, but she's bedraggled, and there's a haunting shot of him carrying it in his arms through all these gravestones and that, and you see what she's seeing. I was saying there's no blurred imagery. Well, actually there is. And because her name's Janet Blair, it's blurred imagery for her. And she's like upside down and she's seeing these tombs, and it's all kind of like an iris sort of thing, like all distorted. And then next she sort of wakes up and she's got there's Norman and a doctor there. The doctor's played by Norman Baird, regular on British TV, and he's wonderful. And he's got the light in her eyes, and he's like, well, yeah, she needs to go to hospital. Something drastic has happened here. You know, it's beyond my understanding. And he's like, well, and they keep leaning into it. And yeah, no, I need to get her back home. All right. I've got a playlist of all witchy stuff, music. So there's a bit of a incantation stuff going on here. But he's saying, like, look, she wakes up and she goes, no, take me home. And he's like, the doctor's going like, no, you can't take her home. She's got to go to hospital because, you know, who knows what damage she's done. In her fragile mind, anything could have happened to her. And why does she stink of the sea? Because she's still soaking wet. And she goes, no, just take me home. So, okay, right, well, I'm going to go, well, it's your responsibility then. So anyway, he takes her home. I was looking for a bottle of whiskey then, and there isn't any. Hence why I'm drinking water, folks. So they do go back to the normal house, and he's trying, like, just rest, you know, like, we'll talk about this in the morning, don't worry about a thing, just rest. Anyway, I think what happens, is he asleep or something? I can't quite remember, but suddenly Tansy wakes up again and gets off the bed and walks down to the kitchen, opens a drawer and selects a big butcher knife. Again, now, you can't help but be reminded of Psycho, because Janet Leigh in Psycho looks just like Janet Blair in this, and Janet Leigh got stabbed with a big butcher knife by Norman Bates. Norman! And you see, what's happening? And she's killed by Norman Bates, and Janet Blair in this is married to Norman. Oh God. I think I'm making connections where there wasn't really any to be made. But she gets a knife and she comes up the stairs. You see her look up the stairs like that, and Norman's up there. And she goes for him, but we see that her foot's turned in and she's limping like Flora Carr, the one in charge, the one in charge of the college. I forgot the name now. What they call him. The dean. Oh, whatever the fucking hell it is, like. And her foot's turned in and she's hobbling up the stairs and along the corridor. And then she goes to the bed or whatever she thinks he's in and stabs. And he's not there. And he's like, he's in the other side of the room. And he goes, Tansy! And she turns around and again limps towards him with the knife like that. And he sees the foot. And he's put two and two together now. He knows. Because now he promised to give his life for her, which somehow broke her out of the spell she was in, the enchanted spell, and brought her to him. So now he fucking knows. You can hear voodoo drums now, can't you? So he's like, Tansy, look, stay here, rest. And he takes the knife off her, puts it safely away, and he locks her in the bedroom. Locks her in now. And he goes back to the college. And he's going to go and he's going to rummage around for evidence in Flora Carr's office. The principal, that's it, the principal. So he gets in there. And of course, you see the great big stone eagle again. And it's compatriots on other walls and things. And he goes in there, goes upstairs. And again, he's using his little matches and candles to light himself around. He gets into her room, opens her desk, and there's all fucking charms and witchcrafty things there. And a picture of him and Tansy, which has been cut out of something. And he sees that, but Flora's there. And like, she hears something, so she limps up the stairs, and he hears her, goes and hides in the shadows. And she comes in and she's like that. Gets all their stuff out on top of the desk, and oh my God, because he puts it away, I think, and she gets it out again. But she's looking for the photo. Where's the photo? What I should have said as well, during the bit where Janet Blair, Tansy's about to stab her husband, you see someone with a voodoo doll and a knitting needle stabbing the doll with a knitting needle. But when he stops her, that gets flung down, and you see a pair of hands form like the talons of an eagle on the arms of the chair, like that. It's very clearly, beautifully done by Richard Matheson and Sidney Hayers, and the characterization by Margaret Johnson to do this sort of thing, because it does make you think of the eagle's claws. And she's very bird-like in her attitude as well, so, and her mannerisms. And so anyway, he comes and he goes, "You looking for this?" And he's got the photo, and he's like, "What's that? Norman, you gave me a fright. I thought we had been burgled. What's that?" It's a photo of me and Tansy. "Oh, that's just a candid picture I took. You know, don't worry, he keeps it. Don't worry, I've got the negative," she says. And you have this weird standoff between them. He goes, "Look, I know what you've been doing." "What? What have I been doing?" "You set me up, with your ward. You've been using charms and stuff against me. The phone calls, everything. You've influenced Tansy. Norman, listen to yourself. You know how crazy you sound. No, you don't really believe any of this now, do you? Who do you think I am? A witch? And all this sort of stuff." And it's a great little standoff. And she's in his face like that, really taunting him as well. She goes, "I'm going to play something for you." And he plays that cursed tape. I don't know how this works, because that tape was meant to be a curse on him and Tansy. They turn it off and it comes down the phone. She pulls the plug on the phone. Now, he plays that tape for her, but isn't the curse meant to be just on him and Tansy? But it's her reaction is like, "Oh, turn it off, turn it off." He's like, "Oh, don't like it, do you?" He goes, "Yes, I just find it uneasy and boring." Something like that. Turns it off like. He goes, "Yeah, but you know what it is." How has he reversed the curse onto her? And what exactly would happen? You don't know, but it doesn't really matter. In the scheme of things, it's still bravura, exciting performances and heightened agitation. It keeps stepping up a level. This film is all about, it's like climbing the Eiger, but with distress and discord and horrific stuff with every single step that you take. It just gets more heightened. Like the Eiger. See what I did there? And this conversation goes on, and in the end, like, what does he do? "Oh, yes, of course." She says, she sits down and she goes, "I'm sure you're familiar with these, Norman. These are tarot cards. I'm building a house. I'm going to put Tansy at the top." And then he's like, "But what are you doing?" And his face is fantastic. And more agitated, more concerned, because now he knows there's a lot more that goes on than you normally believe. And he's got to confront this now. He's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And she sets fire to the house. And he's like, I need to get going. "What, Norman, you don't believe that me setting fire to some cards is going to somehow set fire to Tansy as well in your house, do you? Or do you? Can you take the risk not to believe it?" And he's like, so he's got to go. And she's put the card on top is meant to be Tansy. So she sets fire to it. Now back at the house, that bloody cat, knocks something over which sets fire to a chair, and it goes through a window. The cat gets away, but the house is now ablaze. So like Norman's like, he's like, "That can't be, but I can't take the risk." So he begins to leave, and as he leaves, you hear the flapping of wings, and he turns around, and the great big stone eagle has become a huge, real eagle. And it is a real eagle, and it's a UK golden eagle with, now, what he said in this interview that I saw on this disc, actually, Peter Wyngarde says, I met my co-star, it's a female eagle, and they're bigger than the male eagles. And he said, it was in the room above me, the dressing room above mine, so I went to meet it. And he said, "It's an amazing bird," and it had a 9-foot wingspan. No, that's a Harryhausen fucking eagle from 7 Voyages of Sinbad or something like that. They have, it'd be a maybe 6-foot wingspan, and the female is slightly bigger, so slightly, but it's not 9 foot. But either way, Peter Wyngarde played absolute blinder here. He said, "Look, put meat on my back and set the eagle loose. I want to look afraid." He said, "I see these films all the time and no one ever looks afraid." Oh my God, he looks terrified. He's running from this thing. Now you see it come to life. There's a miniature of the college in a couple of shots, but it's a real fucking eagle. Now, in some shots, you can see it's tethered. There is a cord attached, so the trainer off camera, and it's a shame that they haven't been able to take that out. I know you shouldn't want films to be tinkered with like this, but again, Harryhausen taking the strings out of some of the skeletons and stuff like that and making it more seamless. As Harryhausen himself said, if I had the technology back then, I would have made these effects as seamless as they look now. And the harpies again in Jason the Argonauts. If I could have took those elements out myself, I would have done. So I don't mind it. So I'm saying this now, because you can painfully see this cord attached to the bed, only in a couple of shots though. But it is like, oh damn it! But it comes down on him, and he hides behind this stone effigy statue thing. But it goes whoosh, and the claws fucking take the meat that was on his back, rip his jacket open. There is a sort of rainstorm, but they haven't done that very well because you see rain coming down, but it's over there, not here, and it attacks him. It swoops at him loads of times, and the fear on his face is just extraordinary, and your heart is in your mouth because you're believing this, and he is believing it now as well. I do not believe. You will. And he legs it in, and you've got these wonderful old medieval doors, the big oak doors with the massive nail studs all the way through them. And he gets in and he fucking locks this door, and he legs it down the corridor, but you hear this and he turns around again, and a couple of shots later, he looks again at the door, and the fucking eagle bursts through. Like that. Obviously a fake door and a real eagle, but superimposed shots of the real eagle walking down the corridors. It's fucking huge, this thing. Obviously can't unfurl its wings, so it's hopping. It's like, ah! And he gets into his room, his classroom, where he wrote on the board. The last fucking time he was in that room was days before. Locks the door, pulls a table across it. He hears that unearthly scream of pain and agony, and he sort of goes to a window to see there's someone else out there. There is someone else out there actually, and it's Flora Carr's husband, not Carr. They're doing a bird song now. Caw. Flora's husband's arrived there, and he's run past, or rather, Norman's run past him, and then come hurtling back in again. And you've got what's his face. Oh, I should have said that tape recording. Flora has turned it onto the public announce system, so it's playing out of all these speakers as well outside. It's driving Norman insane. This warbling melody, this lullaby thing, and a fucking big eagle going for him as well. Doesn't do wonders for the heart, that sort of thing, And so he's in his room now. He's heard that scream, and another scream from outside the corridor, and you can see the shadow of this bird getting closer, and he leans back against the blackboard where it says, I do not believe, and his head obscures the not bit, so this becomes I do believe. This is brilliant. Richard Matheson and Charles Beaumont both thought that, right at the start, we're going to put this in just so we can do this at the end. It's not in the book at all. We can do this at the end and it'll be dead clever. People go, oh, isn't that good? And it is. It's brilliant. And when he comes away from it, his head has smudged out the word not as well. So it still says, I do believe. Very clever stuff. It's dead subtle, but it's subtly done, easily done, very simple, but it's very effective at the same time. Now, the husband of Flora has gone into the room. He's like, Flora, what the hell is going on? I've just seen Norman outside, running like the very devil's after him. She's like, oh, I don't know. Why are you playing this? You flipped it onto the loudspeaker. It's playing all over the grounds. Oh, it's nothing. They turn it off, Anyway, they turn the music off. The bird stops. Suddenly everything's calm again. Norman runs out. And that big medieval door, it's sealed up again. It's not smashed in. Has he imagined everything? Is it just a vision? Well, who knows? So he bugs out, but he leaves the door open. And as he's kind of forgotten about the burning cards. And then he hears the fire engine and he goes, shit! He fucking legs it. We have seen a shot of Tansy waking up and going, because she's locked in the room, don't forget. And there's all smoke and billowing flames everywhere. And when he gets there, there's a massive crowd outside. It's all firemen. And the house is really ablaze. It's quite an effective shot, like. And well, it's real. It's not an effect. They fucking set the place on fire. And he tries to leg it in, and a fireman comes out of nowhere. "Excuse me, sir, you can't go in there. My wife's in there." And then you see her. She's out. She's been rescued. Got a fireman's jacket on now. And she's like, "Norman!" And they fight their way through the crowds, and they get together. And well, as that's happening, Flora and her husband are walking towards the main. "What the deuce?" says her husband. "Some damn fool's left the main door open. I've got to sort this out." She's like, No. His name's Leslie. The character's name, Leslie. She goes, "Leslie, no, leave it for the caretaker." And now she limps a bit closer. And he's just been saying, "I think Norman's going to get that job. He's a good man, at the head of the board, the chairman of the board." And you hear above, and she looks up, and that great big stone eagle just goes, "Fuck off." Whoa! And she goes, she gets absolutely flattened. It's like Monty Python's Life of Brian. They bring the great big stone up, and it just the hands and feet are sticking out underneath it. And he's like, "Flora!" He's trying to look. She's completely jam-buttied, And, and it cuts back to them. And he says, like, "But I thought you were dead." No. What happened? And she goes, "Well, I forgot what she says now. Like, the gas boiler went or something. But we know, and Norman knows, that Flora did it by setting fire to tarot cards and cursing the house. We know that. Norman knows that. And now, in a curious turn of events, Tansy doesn't seem to realise that. And she's coming out of the logical explanation. That damn cat. The logical explanation. And he knows the truth. And it's a clever little manipulation there. And then the film ends wonderfully, enigmatically. You assume that he's going to get the place on the board and all that. And everybody's going to live happy ever after. And he'll have charms everywhere. Bit of a cheat that though, innit? You know what I mean? To cheat your way through your life by having magic, occult symbolism looking after you. Now, here's something that I've not found online to confirm it, but again, it's something that Peter Wyngarde said. He said, as we were filming that last sequence of the house on fire, someone from behind the scenes shouted that Janet Blair had an urgent phone call. Now, she's American, and she took you'll see why that's important in a minute. She went off, and she was gone for ages, and all the extras are still there, and they're burning this thing, and the heat was intense, driven them back. And he's like, "Where is she?" And she came back, completely ashen, and she said her house in LA had just burnt down at the exact same time as this house was burning on the set at Elstree. Now, I can't find any more confirmation about that, and I've looked, but it's what he says. Now, Peter Wyngarde is an incredibly strange character. He lied about his age. He lied about how he got to Great Britain. He lied about his parentage. He lied about everything, about his siblings, who he never saw after he arrived in the country. He lied about a hell of a lot. But actors do that. Actors fabricate stuff to make their real life personas even more interesting. So whether, this is true or not, but I don't see why you'd make that up, because that must surely be able to confirm that. Now, another little weird thing. My wife is called Janet. Now, despite the age gap, despite the ages that he puts down for himself, the different ages he put down and date of birth, the genuinely accepted one, which I've forgotten now, he's 6 years younger than Janet Blair, the actress. So his wife is 6 years older. Now, my wife, Janet, is 6 years older than me, exactly to the day. We're born on the same day, just 6 years apart. And I thought, that's weird as well. Now, he owns this movie. He is fantastic in it. I'll talk more about him. But Janet Blair, let's just think about her for a minute. An unusual role for it. I don't think she liked it. But she liked working with Peter Wyngarde. And the two of them reputedly, can you take some of this hocus pocus stuff out of it? As I said earlier, the film is still massively, completely hocus pocus. So I don't know what they took out. And but she looks visibly older than he does. And there's lots of intense close-ups of her very porcelain face and those big, huge Janet Leigh wide eyes and that same bob that Janet Leigh has. But her widow's peak, her crow's feet are really apparent. Now, whether it's just this restoration on this new Blu-ray, I don't know. But when you're watching it, you know straight away that she's an older woman than Peter Wyngarde. It's not an issue. I married one, but you notice these things. In this era, it was usually the case where the man would be a hell of a lot older than the woman. Look at Night of the Demon, Peggy Cummins and Dana Andrews. Massive age gap there. Although they're not romantically linked. Well, you kind of don't know at the end. Maybe they would do, but who knows. But here, it's really monstrously apparent, and it does seem a little bit strange. Now, the mores of the time. Fritz Leiber, when he wrote this about social mores and sexual politics, women being secretly in charge of man, it's very true. Man will always fall for what womanly wiles. They're always going to fall for it. Simple as. Women have got the power because they've got something that you want. Yeah, I'm going to say what it is, but in a way, it's a bit. In the film, again, if the women have got the power, why aren't the women using it for themselves? They're making it. They're protecting their husbands. They're making their husbands' lives better. Flora Carr, the dean, she's the one. She's trying to stop Norman from getting the top slot because she wants her husband Leslie to get the top slot. So she's doing her magic to help her husband, not themselves. And in Fritz Leiber's book, it's the women were all helping their husbands to get on in life, not themselves or each other. It was so again, you got the women who got the power, but they're doing it for the men. So it's told from a man's perspective. The woman works for me. Behind every good man, there is a strong woman. That old idiom, and it certainly is borne out with the movie and the book. As I said, the title Night of the Eagle is definitely inspired by Night of the Demon, but the American title Burn Witch Burn is definitely correct as well, because as she burns the effigy of the house out of the tarot cards, Flora does say burn witch burn. So there's your title, and also it's about burning a witch. They are witches, and Tansy is about to be burned, symbolically at the stake, which is the house. It's a brilliant film. It has a fabulous score as well, which I would normally be playing the score to the film I'm talking about, and it's Olwyn, David Olwyn, Daniel Olwyn, Jonathan Olwyn. It's not there, and I didn't write it down. No, I did. William Olwyn. I did write it down. William Olwyn, many soundtracks, a lot of TV scores as well. But I cannot get this score, and it's exquisite. It's full of supernatural angst and tension, lots of suspense, lots of deep jump scare, shock moments, bravura stuff. That haunting musical lullaby, which I don't know if he did that. Maybe he did as well. That is very haunting and very effective and will stay with you. And it's unpleasant as well. But it's got that kind of childlike whimsy to it, but played, magnified, and with horrific screams as well. Whoa, it's like a carousel type thing. A merry-go-round, but it's really, really frightening. The film is excellent. The photography is outstanding. The performances are electrifying. Margaret Robson as Flora she's brilliant. Twitchy little mannerisms and the knowing look in her eyes and the little horrible conniving little smile. I know something you don't know. It's just brilliant. I could watch her all day. The final face-off between her and Norman is brilliant. Talked about Janet Blair and her rather aged face because she's in really profound close-up shots. It's very similar to The Innocents in many cases. Jack Clayton's fabulous The Innocents with Peter Wyngarde in as well. With intense close-ups and stark, wonderful widescreen black and white photography. It is one of the most beautiful, captivating films you're ever going to see. And this is up there as well. But the intense close-ups, like her face will dominate half the screen and her eyes will be forever looking around. It does get to be quite annoying sometimes because the first half of the movie is all about her looking around and thinking and looking all. It's endless, but the scenes around that are so rapturous and exciting that you forget all that stuff anyway. But it is beautifully shot. I say the score is profound, performances are great, but it's Peter Wyngarde. Sweet Jesus, that face, I mean, because he's stripped bare, he hasn't got a moustache, and although he does get a bit of stubble as this nightmare progresses. You know, he's neglecting to shave somewhat, got other important things on his mind. But he hasn't got the big, stupid, crazy 70s hair that he sported, you know, flamboyantly as Jason King. Of course, in Flash Gordon, he's great as General Clytus. He's wonderful. But what did he go and do? You get a guy with one of the most fabulous, photogenic, crazy, character-filled faces, and you put a mask on him. But at least that mellifluous voice still came through. And he's outstanding. Now, there's an oft-told rumour about this, that Sidney Hayers directed, what's his name? God, I forgot his bloody name. Peter Wyngarde. Oh God, how's that happen? I haven't even been drinking. They shot him in extreme close-up or from the waist up because Peter Wyngarde wore his own costumes, his own clothes to play the character, and he sported exceptionally tight trousers all the time, and his waist was about 24-inch. He's like that, which will probably make his chest looks really good because his waist is literally like that, like an apple core. And but that's absolute bollocks, because I've seen this written about this film. If it ever does get written about, they always say, oh yeah, he had to film just from the waist up or extreme close-ups, especially during the final sequence where the bear's attacking him. Rubbish! You see him in his ultra-tight kecks sprinting across the college grounds. You see him running across the Cornwall beach. You see him scurrying up and down the mountains, the cliff faces. He falls down a couple of these and he's like, ugh! And again, that aquiline nose and his ferocious, like, you know, snarling scream, and his eyes are blazing. He looks incredible. It's just, he's such a captivating face to look at. And but that's bullshit. You see him in these tight kecks all the time, and he's running about, he's running up downstairs, he's doing this, doing that, he's climbing cliffs, he's jumping over walls, he's battling a giant eagle. There's no stock to that claim whatsoever, because you see he's in the full shot all the time. Cheers, y'all. Yeah, Night of the Eagle. It's on this great new restored Blu-ray from Studio Canal, Cult Classics Studio Canal label. There is a commentary with Richard Matheson, which is pretty good. There's some bits he doesn't remember, and there's some bits he's actually a good raconteur, and but he seemed to remember a great line which isn't in the finished movie, where he's in the crypt and she suddenly appears bedraggled in the doorway, and he said, "Oh, there's a great line coming up here," which I think he said wasn't his line. I think it was Charles Beaumont's. And he said, like, when he gets up and he holds it, she's meant to say, "You were too late," because she's soaking wet, like. But in the finished film, she doesn't say that at all, and he's expecting it, and he goes like, "Oh, she didn't say it. And he said, like, a lot of times when you've just done a film and you get interviewed about it and you write about it and you do a commentary track about it, it's all fresh in your mind. But when you return to a film many years later, like he's done in this case, he goes, inevitably you've forgotten things, and you know, it's kind of like watching a new film again. You remember bits, but like, did I write that? Did we do this? And he does say, like, I'd have to go back to read our screenplay and compare it to Fritz Leiber's novel again to see exactly where we deviated and or what point we did that. I thought I had the book actually, but as always, I scouted our two libraries and I couldn't find it. But I thought I might be wrong about that, because I don't recall ever actually reading it, so I don't know. I just knew of the book Conjure Wife, because the magic is it's conjuring. Voodoo is highly referenced in this. It's all about Jamaica. We talk about a witch doctor, Carubius, and again Norman. That girl was in a catatonic trance, and of course, the birth of the zombie myth is born out of evil plantation owners putting people, the power of, you know, the thought onto someone, putting them in, using that drug to make them in a catatonic trance, basically dead in a coma, but physically active and mobile and susceptible to your persuasion. Yeah, it's all been well documented. The serpent and the rainbow, anybody, you know? And so that's why he's dismissive of it. But voodoo is prevalent in it. You've got the voodoo doll, but you've got tarot cards, you've got conjure magic. Conjure magic is making something appear or disappear before your very eyes. So it's all about this, and charms and talismans, totems, protection, and also the counterpart. You've got protective charms, but you've got aggressive charms, which are meant to work evil upon you. There's little spiders scuttling somewhere. They throw all the stuff in the fire, the hearth. They've got a skull there. I don't think that skull's going to burn. You need a crematorium to burn that, to a crisp. But he's prodding it. That's when the cat hisses and goes mad at him. And then the phone rings. You're like, oh, it's a triple whammy. You're like, fucking hell. If he can't take it, nor can we, Folks, the restoration is pretty damn good. It's crystal clear. What grain there is looks authentic and faithful. Detail is immaculate. The compositions, the depth to it, the black scale is outstanding. See, the day for night shooting in Cornwall works in its favour because it gives it an entirely new spectral quality, which is just breathtaking and spellbinding to behold. Folks, if you haven't guessed already, I love this movie. There's some silly bits, of course. Exactly how did Tansy learn all this stuff? We don't know enough about their time in Jamaica and Caribbean. She wanted to give her life for Norman, but after this accident where you were going to die, Norman, you were dying. But what was it? What happened? We don't know what happened. Surely you should tell us what that was to give it more weight and bearing on things. And she made a pact via Caribbean to save Norman, but she didn't give her life because he even says to her, well, that's proof it didn't work because you're still here, aren't you? You're still alive. It's got a good point, hasn't he, really? So you can see why he's still, debunking this whole thing. You think I'm insane? You think all women should be locked up in an asylum? He thinks you're a bit off your tits at the moment, but you're just stressed out, love. Calm yourself. Take a chill pill. Go and play with your black pussy. It's a magical film. It's overwrought. You just got to wonder, when did Tansy realise that Flora was a witch, or did she not realise it was her? Just suspected people in that sort of fraternity were evil and were against them, because she's known all along that they don't fit, they don't belong, and they're working their evil magic against them. You've got the red herring of the girl that's the woman that's a hypnotist. That doesn't go anywhere. By the way, I think her husband is Reginald Beckwith, who plays Harold, but he was also in Night of the Demon. He's the medium, Mr. Meeker, that Peggy Cummins and Dana Andrews and Mrs. Carswell take them to go and see this medium to speak to Peggy Cummins' late great deceased grandfather, which the demon ripped up at the start of the movie and throws the body away. But he's in this, but he doesn't do. He's just there. He's just another character that his wife wants to help get along, but she's using her powers of hypnotism. So it does allude to the fact that other of these women have got powers, but ultimately that goes nowhere. So the influencing of Flora, she's worked it on her ward to make her make the phone call and also make up this bogus claim that she's been raped by Norman. And also she's clearly influenced Tansy to go and commit suicide, because Tansy's not going to put herself into a trance to go and do it. She might, my life for yours, she may have meant that, but Flora's took over, because she's on the bus and she's just in a trance. She's on the beach behind a rock in a trance. That's not her. She hasn't put herself into a trance to do it. That's Flora doing this. Folks, it's frightening, it's clever, it's witty, it's alarmingly exciting. It's, as I say, your nerves will be fraught to hell. Within the first 10 minutes, things begin to, and that is it. From that point onwards, it barrels along. And then you get the eagle. Jesus Christ, when it comes thundering, smashing through that medieval door. Poof! It does look, when you watch it, like someone has just picked it up and gone like, right. It's a plywood version and just fucking held the eagle through it. It's gone. But it is really exciting. And the clever bit of like, I do not believe becoming I do believe that's just gold. Folks, massively recommend it. There's the box for it there. It is outstanding. It's a good restoration and sound is perfect on it. Bravo, Studio Canal. You do get that horrendous Studio Canal logo with all the spinning lights and all that. Oh God, which I detest. But anyway, the film itself is what you're after. And it sits, Night of the Demon is the pinnacle for British occult horror. This is a British movie. Janet Blair may be American, Richard Matheson's American, but this is a British movie through and through. Night of the Demon is right up there. It's unbeatable. This is not far below it. They make a great double act, a great double bill of occult black and white British horror movies. Outstanding stuff. And if you wanted to up the ante a little bit, go a bit more colourful and a bit more OTT as well, very similar in tone and style, The Devil Rides Out from Hammer. You could end on that. Because again, they form the circle and the pentagram and all that, and you've got they're assailed by a spider and the visions and the angel of death, but you're hearing these noises outside. In fact, the noises against their door of their house, not the cottage, their house, when the music's playing. And she's like, Norman, don't answer the door. Norman, don't answer the door. And it's playing out the phone. And it's like he doesn't know what to do. And he bangs his knee. He's like, oh, and he goes to the door, but you can hear what sounds like horses' hooves barreling against it, and this unearthly shriek, which reminds me of The Devil Rides Out and The Haunting as well. Yes, The Haunting, another classic, not a witch story of course, but it's supernatural but plays on the mind as well. Some great movies, all of these are 10 out of 10, really they are. But give this one a viewing, folks. A lot of you will have heard of it. A lot of you have probably seen it as well, but it just doesn't get the kudos that I think it deserves. There's a bit of shorthand in the screenplay writing, but the performances, Peter Wyngarde, he excels. He made his name by playing Jason King, obviously, and Clytus. But he didn't make many movies. He did a few, but he didn't make many. He did a lot of stage productions, some of which were disastrous. But he is a good actor. Here's Goblin and Sighs from Suspiria, Witches, and My Wife looked just like Jessica Harper playing Susie Bannion. The connections are flying thick and fast, aren't they? Folks, happy that we shall be Kilt-Man, please. In the meantime, this ever spectrally spellbinding, occultish, witchy in-between time, please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all later. I forgot my own little antic there, didn't I? And keep your charms around you. Protection, always use protection, especially with these witches. You don't know where they've been.